You're watching Business Q&A with me, Gary Alfonso, and joining us on the program today is Mr. Felix Ratheb. He's the Sea Harvest Group CEO, and to talk about the company's performance over the past 7 years specifically, and how the organization has managed to remain so relevant in the South African industry. Felix, thanks very much for joining us on the show today. Maybe many of us see sea harvest products, on the shelves, but what exactly is the bigger role of the group, and what is that all about?
Thanks, Gary. I think with most businesses, the best place to start is at the beginning. We were founded in 1964, so we're almost 60 years. We were founded on the west coast of the Western Cape in Saldanha Bay. And you can imagine, with employing over 2,500 people on the site, we were very relevant to the town. We employed more than 30% of the town. Almost 4,000 families relied on sea harvest in terms of their livelihoods. So we became a very strategic asset to the area. And what we've tried to do over the years is to remain relevant, exactly to your point. No business remains relevant by shrinking, so you have to grow. And we started the journey in terms of listing the company in 2017. Raising quite a bit of capital to invest in the business. So we invested in the business organically. We invested the business from an acquisitive perspective to a point where today we employ 5,500 people in the business. We operate in 26 countries across the world with operations, direct operations in both South Africa and Australia. We've got about 35 vessels that we operate in our fleet, factories all over the world. And really a business today that does fishing in South Africa and Australia. We do aquaculture, which is farmed fish. As you can imagine, from a fishing perspective, supply is constrained with what we get out of our oceans, even when we manage it sustainably. And we've started to then diversify into fish farming, which is called aquaculture, as well as related categories in food. And really, when we listed, we are today, we believe, probably one of the larger whitefish or groundfish companies in the world. We're a hake fishing company, really. With species like hake and prawns, which are in demand, particularly in parts of Southern Europe, where they have a very high consumption of fish per capita that they eat per annum. So that's a little bit about the business, where we come from and what we are today.
Your primary business is fishing, which is a big industry that extends beyond the borders of South Africa. What would you say sets Sea Harvest apart from its local and global competition?
It's a good question. I think the biggest thing or the biggest attribute that we have, or core competency, is the fact that we have scale. These are very capital intensive businesses. Know-how is critical, and having scale makes you competitive in terms of cost. And that is our South African and our Australian business. We are quite relevant in terms of those particular geography. Of course, the other thing is brand. I mean, in South Africa, our brand is more than 50 years old. Most people have been brought up eating our product, so they would know it. But, when you supply 26 countries across the world, you can't penetrate every market with your brand. So what we have there is a very, very good reputation. What we've done globally is build Cape Hake and South Africa Inc., really, as a quality producer, quality fish, the provenance around the Western Cape, etc. We have a very, very strong reputation globally. We beneficiate everything in South Africa. I think that's another competitive advantage. We believe that we are very capable in South Africa. Our staff are very efficient in terms of fishing operations. So we convert the final product in South Africa, and we would supply a retailer in Australia or in Germany, like Aldi or Lidl, Walmart, whoever it might be. We produce the final products in South Africa, and I think that is a competitive advantage. At the same time, if you're in fishing or generally in the agri space, sustainability is a key issue. So we play an active role both here and in Australia, making sure that our oceans are managed sustainably, because we fish for the future. I mean, the reality is we need the resource to be healthy and the fish stocks to be healthy for us to be able to compete globally. And Our government, as well as the Australian government, we both have the what they call Marine Stewardship Council, which is the gold standard for sustainability in our oceans. And that sets us apart in the markets that we enter.
Over the past 7 years, Sea Harvest has shown a revenue compounded annual growth rate of 20% and an EBIT of growth rate of 12%. What's the group done to realize this growth?
We're very proud of that, to start off with. We've done, we believe, exceptionally well. I think the big thing is that, first of all, we've got a very experienced management team here with a lot of depth. I think that's the start of any growth story, and that's important. Our focus has been twofold. One is to grow organically. So as I said, at listing, we raised capital. We invested that capital in terms of renewing our fleet and our factory operations for them to be world class, and tried to, and we did, optimize the margin. That was the initial strategy. We did the same in our dairy operations. We put up a new powder plant. We put up a new butter plant. In our aquaculture farms, we built a second farm with a lot more tanks. So we've grown the business organically. But to show that type of growth when you're constrained in terms of supply, you have to look at acquisitions too. And we've made very strategic acquisitions. Our black ownership today is 96%. So from our perspective, our vision was to be the largest black-owned business, agri-business on the JSE. We were already voted the most transformed business on the JSE, and our vision and our shareholders' vision is how do we take this globally? And that's what we did. We acquired a business in Australia. We doubled the size of that business. We listed it. We delisted it. But at the end of the day, we've managed to grow acquisitively in Australia and in related categories, whether it be fish farming or dairy farming. Look, you're not going to get all acquisitions right. And I believe with our growth story, one of the core competencies we've had is that we've bought businesses at the right price. At the same time, we've had depth in management in terms of really integrating those businesses into our group. And then growing from there. I think that is critical, because you're not going to get them always right. Businesses we know well, or industries we know are like fishing, we'll buy the business and we'll bring it in. But where we're buying into businesses where it's across border or in another category, we do look at the strength of the management teams there. I think that's critical for the success of a business. So we place a lot of reliance on management teams.
Felix, we have limited time, so perhaps just very quickly, how do you see revenue growth over the next period, and also managing the challenges in South Africa's economy?
There's a lot of challenges. We start with load shedding, trying to invest in renewables. We had the same issue with water in South Africa, where we had to build desalination plants. But I think for us, it's the start of the journey. I think there's a lot of opportunity still in Australia. Our view is, and our vision is to be the largest business in Australia. Our black ownership credentials allow us to look at more acquisitions in our space, in the fishing space in South Africa. But at the same time, leverage our core competencies, even in other geographies in terms of further growth. So, it's the start of our journey. As I say, we listed on the JSE only 5 years ago, and we'd be looking to grow further.
Well, fascinating story. We look forward to the next chapter. Felix Ratheb, Mr. Felix Ratheb, CEO of Sea Harvest, thank you very much for joining us. And that's all we have time for today. Stay tuned for more Business Day programming.